Fluorescent lights above buzzed softly, illuminating the sterile hospital room where Mr. Jenkins lay. Each beep of the heart monitor punctured the quiet, a somber reminder of life teetering at its edge. The elderly man gripped a frayed concert ticket, a memento from one of George Strait's early performances, a symbol of a cherished past that danced like shadows in his mind. "I wish she were here," Mr. Jenkins murmured, his voice thin and wavering. He gazed towards the window, where the sun was setting, casting warm hues reminiscent of evenings spent with his late wife, Annie. They had danced together under starlit skies, wrapped in George's melodies that now felt like echoes of a distant life, filled with love and laughter. The ticket was more than paper. It was a bridge to all the joy they had shared. Now, alone in the sterile confines of the hospital, regret tightened around him like a vice. Time had slipped through his fingers, and all he had left were memories mingled with longing for final moments never shared. Meanwhile, in a vivid concert atmosphere, George stood backstage, the air thick with excitement and anticipation as fans cheered. But as Sarah, his dedicated assistant, burst into the room, anxiety rippled through the air like a dark cloud. "George, I have urgent news," she said, breathless. "It's Mr. Jenkins. He's not doing well." The statement hung heavily in the air. George's heart sank. Mr. Jenkins was more than a fan. He was a tapestry woven into the very fabric of George's journey, a reminder of the true purpose behind his music. "How bad is it?" he managed to ask, dread pooling in his stomach. "He's in the hospital. They say he doesn't have much time left. He's been asking for you." Sarah's voice trembled, filled with concern. Panic surged through George. The laughter and cheers from the concert outside faded into silence. The crushing weight of missed opportunities bore down on him. "What if I can't make it in time?" "Let's go now," Sarah urged, her eyes steady and reassuring. "He needs to see you." With no hesitation, George nodded, rushing towards the exit. The drive to the hospital stretched infinitely, each passing moment wrapped in despair. Memory flooded him. He thought of the joyful moments that his music had created for so many, intertwining with sadness, wondering if he had truly valued his impact. As he parked and hurried inside, the scent of antiseptic filled the air, serving as a harsh reminder of the fragility of life. In the hospital corridor, each heartbeat echoed his internal struggle, amplifying his awareness of mortality and the urgency of connection. Stepping into Mr. Jenkins' room, George was struck by the sight before him. The frail man lay wrapped in white blankets, clutching that cherished ticket, a symbol of their shared history. George took a deep breath, feeling a mix of apprehension and resolve flood through him. "Mr. Jenkins," he said softly, taking a step closer. In this moment, he recognized the profound impact of music and connection, ready to bridge the gap between their stories, eager to share a final note together that transcended time. The hospital room felt tense, the atmosphere alive with unspoken emotions as George stepped closer to Mr. Jenkins. He took a moment to absorb the sight of the man who had supported him through every album, every tour. The frail body in the bed was more than just an elderly fan. He was a living testament to the power of music, carrying a lifetime of memories and stories intertwined with George's songs. "George?" Mr. Jenkins whispered, his voice rasping like gravel. The old man's eyes fluttered open, struggling to focus on the familiar face that had marked so many beautiful moments in his life. A flicker of recognition danced in his gaze. "You came." George felt a swell of emotion as he nodded. "I wouldn't miss it for the world. You've meant so much to me." Mr. Jenkins smiled weakly, gripping the concert ticket tighter, as if calling forth long-buried memories. "Annie loved your music. She always said it was the soundtrack to our love story." As George settled into the chair beside the bed, a ghost of a smile crossed his face. "I remember when I saw you two at that concert in Austin. You were both dancing like nobody was watching." Mr. Jenkins chuckled softly, the sound reminiscent of a wind chime swaying in a gentle breeze. "Those were the days. She was my everything. We danced under the stars, with your voice wrapped around us like a warm blanket." The mention of Annie sparked a flurry of memories in Mr. Jenkins' mind, pulling him back through the years. With each story he shared, the atmosphere grew warmer, as if the very essence of love and music hovered between them. "Oh, George, we went to every concert you held, even danced to your songs in our little living room. Your music was the light in our lives." As Mr. Jenkins detailed vivid memories of their night out, a swirl of laughter, vibrant lights, and the sweat of dancing bodies, George listened intently. He could picture them hand in hand, lost in a world of notes and emotion. It was these moments that mattered, the memories that forged connections and kept love alive. Yet amidst the laughter, a shadow crept in, the regret of what had been lost, the silence that now filled the room. But now, Mr. Jenkins's voice faltered, sadness creeping into his tone. I feel like I've missed my final dance with her. George felt the weight of those words settle in his heart. You have so much love inside you, Mr. Jenkins. It can still carry on. That doesn't fade. It evolves. Mr. Jenkins looked at him thoughtfully, the wisdom of years navigating the pain that clung to his aging heart. I know that, George, but I always wished we could have one last moment together, one last song, you know? Silence enveloped them, the gravity of unfulfilled dreams hanging in the air. George searched for the right words, understanding that music often held the power to heal the deepest wounds. What if, he began tentatively, what if we could create that moment? How about I come back tomorrow? We could have our own concert, just you and me. Mr. Jenkins' eyes sparkled with a glimmer of hope, tracing the contours of the dream he had clung to for so long. You would do that for me? Of course, said George, his voice filled with warmth and sincerity. You deserve it. We'll make it special, just like old times. The frail man's lips trembled as emotion washed over him. It's been so long since I've felt alive. The exchange lit a spark between them, a connection rekindled against the backdrop of time that had slipped away. As George leaned forward, he could see the flicker of joy in Mr. Jenkins' eyes, a flicker of hope, momentarily banishing the shadows. Let me tell you about Annie and our first dance, Mr. Jenkins continued, animated by the possibility of a new memory. It was to Amarillo by morning. She twirled in that old dress, her laugh ringing like a melody. As stories flowed, the bond between them deepened, grounded in shared experiences and the power of music. George listened eagerly, envisioning the moments Mr. Jenkins described, a beautiful reminder that past heartbreak could lead to future joy. He silently vowed to craft a set list that honored their cherished memories and gave Mr. Jenkins a chance to reminisce about the love that kept burning bright. Hours melted away in laughter and fond recollections, a temporary refuge from the stark reality outside. George felt a sense of purpose rising within him, a commitment to bringing joy and connection back to Mr. Jenkins's life, even just for a fleeting moment. As he rose to leave, George promised, "Tomorrow will be our special day. I'll bring my guitar, and we'll fill this room with music and memories." Mr. Jenkins nodded slowly, gratitude evident in his watery gaze. "Thank you, George. You've given me something to look forward to." As he stepped into the hallway, George glanced back, the resolve brightening within him. For once he felt a surge of life behind the weight of fame, a tether between heartbeats echoing through time, uniting them both in song. In that fleeting moment he understood the true essence of his journey, that in the melody of life every note counted, and every connection was a gift worth cherishing. The sunlight broke gently over George's bedroom, waking him from a restless night. It seeped through the window like a warm invitation. Today wasn't just another day. It held the promise of connection, of rekindling joy in the heart of Mr. Jenkins. George carefully picked up his trusted guitar, a familiar companion that had sung the stories of countless lives, including Mr. Jenkins. As he drove to the hospital, anticipation coursed through him, threading itself with a flicker of fear. Would he arrive in time? The weight of missed opportunities loomed heavy in his mind, reminding him of the faces that shaped his journey, those who had found solace in his songs and now, too often, remained out of reach. Parking in the hospital lot, the scent of antiseptic flooded back, yet today felt different. He hurried inside, each step echoing with renewed determination. When he entered Mr. Jenkins' room, the atmosphere shifted. It was electric with possibility. The frail man lay nestled among white sheets, his eyes flickering open at the sight of George. "George," Mr. Jenkins whispered, a smile breaking through his tired expression. "You came." "Of course I did," George replied, his voice tinged with warmth. "I brought my guitar just like I promised." "Music," Mr. Jenkins breathed, reverent and full of yearning. "I never thought I'd hear it again." Setting the guitar gently in his lap, George strummed the first chords of Amarillo by Morning. The familiar melody washed over them, igniting memories tucked away for too long. Mr. Jenkins closed his eyes, surrendering to the flood of recollection. George continued to play, each chord weaving a story that bridged the past and present. As he sang, George could see Mr. Jenkins being drawn back to dances in the moonlight with Annie, laughter echoing in joyful reverie. The old man's eyes sparkled with a distant light, every note and lyric pulling him momentarily away from the stark reality of the hospital room. George poured his heart into the performance, creating a sanctuary where words became lifelines connecting the two. With every song they shared, a sense of unity blossomed in the room, dispelling shadows of loneliness. "You have an incredible memory, Mr. Jenkins," George said, finishing one song and wiping a bead of sweat from his forehead. Mr. Jenkins chuckled softly. "Your music kept us alive, George. It's a part of me, part of my love for Annie." A tender silence enveloped them as they exchanged glances filled with unspoken understanding. George felt the weight of their shared experience, the bittersweet tenderness binding them beyond the confines of the hospital walls. As Mr. Jenkins recounted cherished memories, laughter swelled, punctuated by the warmth of connection. When the final chord rang out, George set the guitar aside. The room pulsed with a nostalgic energy, allowing memories to hover in the air. Moments that once seemed distant now felt tangible. Mr. Jenkins looked at George with gratitude glimmering in his eyes. "Thank you, George. That was the best gift I could ever receive," he said, his voice quaking with emotion. George offered a small smile, overwhelmed by the resounding truth of that statement. "You deserve every moment of happiness. Music is meant to bring us together." The flicker of joy in Mr. Jenkins' gaze ignited something in George, a realization of the depth and power of connection. As he prepared to leave, a sense of yearning enveloped him. He recognized the need for these encounters, the sustenance they brought in times of sorrow and solitude. But as the minutes passed, a gnawing sense of dread crept back in. Time was ephemeral, slipping like sand through the fingers. With an air of melancholy, he realized that their moment, however beautiful, could be fleeting. For George, the visit had opened the door to the stark truth of his life, a life filled with applause, yet often marked by loneliness. Through the lens of Mr. Jenkins, he came to see that hidden within every song was the power to reveal deeper truths, unlocking joy and connection amid the chaos. "I'll be back," he promised as he stood to leave, determination lacing his tone. "We'll keep making memories, together." As he walked away, George cast one last look back. He understood that these connections were the heart of the journey, the melody that united him with fans, strangers, and friends alike. The loneliness that frequently shadowed him began to dissipate, and hope surged, rocketing forward like a chorus bursting into a life-affirming refrain. The following morning dawned in hues of lavender and gold, the sun casting delicate rays through George's window. The warmth kissed his skin, a soothing reminder of the day ahead, his promise to Mr. Jenkins blossoming with every heartbeat. George shifted restlessly in bed, anticipating the moment when they would connect through music once more. He carefully chose the songs for their special performance, each note intentional, a selection meant to evoke love and nostalgia. With every strum of his guitar, he envisioned Mr. Jenkins' face lighting up, vibrant memories coming alive once more. This was their moment to create a lasting memory, one that transcended the hospital's sterile walls. Upon arriving at the hospital, George felt an electric pulse of anticipation flowing through him, curling through his limbs and filling him with an invigorating energy. As he stepped inside, the familiar scent of antiseptic reminded him of their last meeting, but felt less oppressive today. Each footstep resonated with hope, a refreshing contrast to the weight he'd carried before. Entering Mr. Jenkins' room, George was struck by the sight before him. The old man lay peacefully against the crisp white sheets, one hand resting on the ticket that had carried the weight of their connection. The fragility of Mr. Jenkins was apparent, but the corner of his mouth turned upward, a whisper of joy that reflected the bond they were cultivating. "Good morning, Mr. Jenkins," George greeted, a gentle smile breaking across his face. "Are you ready for today?" "More than ready, George," Mr. Jenkins replied, his voice a tender rasp that held an unmistakable flicker of excitement. "I've waited for this moment." George settled into his usual chair, the guitar cradled comfortably in his lap like a nostalgic old friend. "Let's start it off our way, shall we?" He strummed the opening notes of Amarillo by Morning, letting the familiar chord fill the space as the songs poured forth from his heart. Each note resonated deeply, and with every strum, George watched as Mr. J. Jenkins slipped into a reverie, his features softening, eyes gleaming with memories of love, laughter, and dance. The melodies began to thread together the fabric of their existence, wrapping them in a cocoon of warmth and remembrance. As George sang, he could feel Mr. Jenkins' energy shifting, lifting, every note building a bridge to a time long past. "In the morning," George sang, "the moon will shine." The old man leaned forward, his gaze steady, a hint of yearning flowing through him. "That song was our favorite," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "Annie and I. It was our song when she finally danced her way into my heart." George nodded, honoring the memory woven into the notes. "Music helps us remember. It brings the past forward, doesn't it?" "Yes," Mr. Jenkins agreed softly, his fingers brushing over the ticket as if he were holding on to a fragment of the past. "It keeps the love alive. It tells our story." With each song and shared remembrance, George felt a kind of rebirth unfolding within him, a realization that transcended his previous understanding of music's purpose. This wasn't just about applause or charts. It was about connections and the ability to touch souls. As they transitioned into another song, laughter bubbled into the room, a fabric of joy intermingling with the straightforward hospital air. It was a laughter tinged with happiness, sadness, and a deep understanding that time is fleeting. During the next song, George decided to lead into a heartfelt rendition of "I Cross My Heart," hoping to evoke deeper emotions, with lyrics announcing devotion and promise. As he strummed the chords, Mr. Jenkins' eyes glistened with tears, a mixture of nostalgia and longing. "This song," he whispered, clutching the edges of his hospital bed, "made me realize how love can transcend everything, even time." "Love is what keeps us alive," George murmured, his voice breaking slightly. "It's what brings us back, even in the hardest moments." As George played on, Mr. Jenkins began to join in. The old man's shaky voice intertwined with George's, weaving a harmony that felt fragile yet boundless, a moment solidified by the music, creating an echo of shared experiences. Every note struck brought forth memories of Annie, the way they would sway together, lost in their world, as the world outside faded into insignificance. Every song carried George deeper into a realization that their encounter was not just a fleeting moment of nostalgia, but a reminder of the importance of cherishing connections. The lyrics not only transcended time, they created an intricately woven tapestry filled with love, laughter, and loss. Minutes turned into hours, but neither cared how time slipped away as music wrapped around them like a comforting embrace. George smiled at Mr. Jenkins, who had transformed before his eyes, radiant and alive in the glow of music. As they finished the last song, silence blanketed the room, allowing the echoes of laughter and heartfelt conversations to settle. Both men grasped the weight of the moment. The sanctity of what they had shared was undeniably profound. "Thank you, George," Mr. Jenkins said, his voice trembling with depth. "You've given me the gift of music and memory, not just today, but through everything." George lowered his guitar and leaned closer, feeling a strong connection swirl between them. "You've reminded me of something incredibly important. Music gives us a reason to keep going, to embrace life even when it feels heavy." Mr. Jenkins nodded, a warm smile spreading across his face. "You've renewed my spirit, George, just like Annie's love renewed mine." As George prepared to leave, an overwhelming sense of purpose filled him. He had come to offer a memory, yet he had received one in return, one that would echo deeply within him, resonating through each song he would write moving forward. He left the room with a gentle goodbye, gratitude filling his heart. As he walked down the sterile hallway, hope surged within him. He carried not only the weight of a promise, but the vivid realization that connection was indeed the rhythm of life. This experience would mark the beginning of something new, not just for Mr. Jenkins, but for George as well. A rebirth ignited by the truth that every heartfelt connection could illuminate the darkest paths, weaving them into a beautiful tapestry of voices remembered through music. The days flowed into weeks, each moment wrapped around George like a comforting blanket. The time spent with Mr. Jenkins had left him invigorated, his heart swelling with a renewed sense of purpose. He poured the lessons learned into songwriting, crafting melodies that resonated with vulnerability and connection. Each note became a testament to the human experience, a plea for appreciation and love, transcending the plight of the lonely road he often traveled. Yet, amid the buzzing excitement of creating music, uncertainty lurked in the corners of his mind, a dread that something unthinkable loomed just out of sight. Life had a way of delivering heartbreak alongside joy, and George knew better than to ignore that whisper. As he rode the high of his newfound inspiration, he found himself frequently returning to the hospital. Each visit brought the same electric energy, but with every farewell, a tension grew within him. When he entered Mr. Jenkins's room that Tuesday, the man who lay within seemed frail, drained of the vibrancy that had marked their previous encounters. "George," Mr. Jenkins said, his voice barely rising above the hum of the machines around him. "You came back." "Of course," George replied, hiding the fear that had begun to gnaw at him. "I wouldn't miss it for the world." "Good. I wanted to share something with you today." Mr. Jenkins shifted slightly, a hint of a smile on his lips. However, his eyes spoke a different story, an underlying sadness, a reluctance to face what lay ahead. George produced his guitar from its case, apprehension curling like a vine around his heart. As he tuned the strings, a sense of unease began to brood in the air. He started to sing, choosing "The Weight of Love," a song that felt reflective and solemn, echoing the complexities of life's burdens. Each word resonated deeply, and as George watched Mr. Jenkins lean wistfully toward the window, it became evident that something troubling weighed heavy upon him. "George," Mr. Jenkins said after a moment, his voice trembling, "I need to tell you something. I've received some news." "News?" George's heart sank, sensing the gravity in Mr. Jenkins' tone, which felt almost like a premonition. "Yes." Mr. Jenkins hesitated, his breath shaky. "The doctors say my time is running short." The words landed like a blow. George felt a lump rising in his throat, his fingers stopping mid-strum. The weight of the air bore down upon him like a suffocating force. No, you can't mean that. We just started to—" "I know," Mr. Jenkins interrupted gently, "but we cannot fight our fate, can we? What we shared was profound, and I will carry it with me. I've lived a full life, filled with love, but I fear I won't be able to stay much longer." The vulnerability in Mr. Jenkins's voice shattered George's resolve. Swallowing hard, he felt emotions swirl within him, a cocktail of anger, denial, and despair. How could he say goodbye to someone who had offered him so much in such little time? The thought of losing Mr. Jenkins, a constant symbol of resilience and hope, threatened to unravel him. "Promise me you will continue to create," Mr. Jenkins urged, his voice a painful whisper. "The world needs your music. You have a gift that can bring light to others. I need to know it will live on, that someone will carry my memories through song." "But we have so much more music to share," George insisted, desperation creeping into his voice. "I can't bear the thought of—" "Life carries on, my friend," Mr. Jenkins replied, a bittersweet smile on his lips. "This is not an ending. It's just a transition. My spirit, my love, will live on within you and through your songs." The ache within George felt unbearable in that moment. Ripped from the bliss of their connection, he struggled to find words. The pain of impending loss crept into every corner of the room. "What am I supposed to do without you?" he pleaded, voice thick with tears. "Use this pain, George. Transform it into something beautiful. Let it inspire your music, your lyrics." Mr. Jenkins' eyes glistened as he regarded George one last time. "Know this, love doesn't fade away. It morphs into something that can influence the very fabric of life." Defeated yet instinctively obedient to the wisdom of the old man, George whispered, "I promise, but I don't want to say goodbye." Mr. Jenkins smiled weakly, words tapering into silence. "Goodbyes don't mean we're gone. They mean we'll live on in memories, in the songs that carry our voices forward." In that moment, George felt the weight of their bond. It was raw and beautiful, tethered by music that offered healing beyond measure. He took a deep breath, then gently strummed another chord, letting it flow into a farewell melody, a last embrace expressed through notes that echoed sentiments of love, loss, and hope. As the last chord dwindled into silence, an impending sense of finality cloaked the air like a shroud. They both leaned into that moment, absorbing every nuance, aware this might be one of their last shared experiences. "Thank you, George," Mr. Jenkins said, his voice quavering. "You've given me the gift of memory, a chance to celebrate the music of my life." "Your spirit will carry on in every song I write," George murmured, feeling raw energy coursing through him. Each note he had played resonated with an urgency, a reminder of the beauty found in quickly passing moments. As Mr. Jenkins smiled through tears, George realized that the weight of grief could sometimes transform into the catalyst of profound inspiration. It would serve as a haunting reminder, filled with bittersweet melodies awaiting his touch. As George prepared to leave, the tension within him gave way to a somber acceptance. He cast one last lingering look at Mr. Jenkins, who bore an air of contentment, like a candle flickering yet resilient. Each step down the sterile corridor felt heavy, shadows of loss trailing closely behind him. But with every step another thought emerged. Amidst sorrow, he would find a way to weave this experience into his music, allowing love's legacy to continue. Perhaps grief could channel into something beautiful, a way to honor Mr. Jenkins, to celebrate a life well lived. The world outside felt brighter, colors richer, as George recognized that while endings may come, love resonates endlessly through the notes that follow. This, he vowed, he would carry forward. Settling into his car, he breathed deep and let the emotions wash over him one last time. In that fleeting moment, he drew strength from the connection they had formed, a promise to bring light to the shadows. He was ready to step into the world, guitar in hand, and let his grief transform into a melody that would forever echo the enduring spirit of hope and love, the very essence of music itself. George drove home with the weight of sorrow pressuring his chest, but amid the pain, glimmers of clarity began to emerge. The sun cast its last golden rays across the horizon, bathing the fields in amber light, an ethereal reminder of life's fleeting beauty. As he navigated the empty roads, the gentle hum of the engine matched the rhythm of his heart, each beat a whispered promise of healing, a call to embrace the moments that mattered. Once at home, he found himself staring at the worn guitar that had accompanied him through countless nights of joy and heartache. The wood, soft and familiar, seemed to resonate with the echoes of Mr. Jenkins' laughter, his stories of love, and the soulful wisdom imparted in those final moments. George felt compelled to pick it up, yet a lump formed in his throat, hesitant to taint the instrument with the rawness of his grief. Finally, fingers trembling, he reached for it. A deep breath steadied him as he sank into his favorite chair on the porch, the evening air rich with the fragrance of blooming jasmine. The world around him felt alive, every rustle of leaves, every distant sound of cicadas stitching together a tranquil backdrop to his turmoil. The first chord he struck felt heavy, teeming with the pain of loss yet immersive with resonance. He fumbled through a few notes, finding grounding in their familiarity, then began to weave his words. Stories of love lost yet never forgotten. He felt the spirit of Mr. Jenkins beside him, whispering quietly, reminding him that grief and love are intimately entwined. As the song flowed, the melodies spoke of heartache, nostalgia, and the quiet acceptance of life's impermanence. George poured himself into each verse, feeling the weight of his sorrow transform into something beautiful. He realized that these emotions were not just burdens to bear, they were a rich fabric, ripe for exploration and expression. Sometimes love shines brightest in the shadows, he sang softly, heart swelling with each note, and when the laughter fades, the echo remains. Each strum of his guitar felt like a step toward healing, the pain in his chest loosening with every lyric. He could almost see Mr. Jenkins's smile, the light in his eyes at the words resonating with his own journey. George understood now. The songs he wrote, the stories he told, would keep Mr. Jenkins alive in the hearts of those who listened. This was the legacy they had promised each other. Days turned into weeks, yet the sun continued to rise and set in rhythmic cycles, a powerful reminder that life persisted even amid loss. George found solace in his music, the studio becoming a sanctuary where he embraced the storytelling woven from heartbreak. The soundboard transformed into a confidant. Each microphone captured the essence of vulnerability, every note a celebration of memories shared between him and Mr. Jenkins. As his songs began to fill the airwaves, George felt the resonance grow, a connection blossoming among strangers who shared in the collective heartbeat of love and loss. Music had become the vessel through which his grief poured, creating a bridge between the past and present. Amidst the chaos of the music world, George received messages from fans who found comfort in his lyrics, people navigating their own heartbreaks, each one reaching for hope through the melodies that stirred within them. "Your music saved me," read one message. "It inspired me to keep going." That comment struck George like a lightning bolt, igniting a renewed passion within him. One afternoon, as he rehearsed new songs, he felt a familiar sensation, a tingle of emotion he hadn't felt in a while. He realized it was hope. He turned his focus outward, envisioning how to weave even deeper connections into his music, embracing the stories waiting to flow. The next day, he found a small local venue in town, a humble space with an intimate atmosphere, a perfect setting to share his journey. With determination, he decided to hold a small concert dedicated to Mr. Jenkins and others who had shaped him along the way. The announcement was met with unexpected excitement, and soon the space filled with familiar faces and eager strangers, ready to listen. As George took the stage, the crowd folded into silence. He adjusted the microphone, glancing out at those gathered, all eyes filled with warmth and encouragement. "Thank you all for being here tonight," he began, voice steady yet vulnerable. "This performance isn't just for me. It is for all those we've loved and lost, those who have inspired us to keep going even when faced with heartache." He strummed the first chord, a fused energy radiating from the crowd. The songs began weaving their way through the air, bringing forth stories rich with nostalgia, laughter and love, reminders that grief could be transformed into something tangible and beautiful. As he played "The Weight of Love," he could see Mr. Jenkins in the back of his mind, nodding with approval. Tears brimmed in his eyes, and just as he feared he might crumble, he saw familiar faces reflecting his own emotions, listeners who had suffered but also sought healing. The ripple of connection they shared thickened the atmosphere, creating an undeniable bond. With each strum, the verses evoked laughter and sorrow, creating a tapestry of collective emotions that hung heavy in the air, yet breathed life into the room. As the final note faded, a wave of applause surged through the venue, a tangible acknowledgement of shared experiences and heartfelt stories whirling amidst laughter and gratitude. In that powerful moment of acceptance, George realized that his grief had morphed into something new, a tapestry woven of resilience built by the love of memories, his own and those of the audience. This was not an ending, this was only the beginning. The music, once birthed from pain, had flourished into a celebration of life and love, propelling him forward into uncharted territory. As he looked around, gratitude washed over him like a cleansing rain. It was clear that healing was not meant for solitary journeys. It was the stitching of togetherness that illuminated paths even in the deepest shadows. George left the stage that night, heart full, a promise whispered in the vibrant echoes of laughter. He carried forth a legacy that could never be extinguished, filled with hope and the enduring spirit of Mr. Jenkins, who had offered him the gift of connection through music. In the weeks that followed the concert, George was enveloped in a vibrant energy. The impact of that night lingered like smoke, igniting inspiration in ways he never anticipated. Fans reached out through letters, emails, and social media, sharing their own stories of loss and resilience, each one a ripple adding to the waves of connection. George absorbed their messages, allowing himself to delve deep into the core of each narrative. He recognized that grief is not a burden to carry, but a rich tapestry waiting to be woven into something beautiful. One evening, under a blanket of stars, George found himself reflecting on Mr. Jenkins, the man who had ignited his spirit when he had felt lost. It dawned on him that every moment shared with the old man had breathed life into George's journey, pushing him to confront sadness with courage. The music he created began to channel the vast spectrum of human emotion, where joy danced with sorrow. Among the many heartfelt letters, one particularly touched him. A father wrote about bringing his young daughter, Lily, to George's concert. Lily had lost her mother just a few months prior, and George felt an indescribable urge to meet her. After the show, as he walked backstage, he spotted the timid girl waiting by the steps, clutching a well-worn notebook. "Mr. Strait," she said in a small voice, her eyes filled with unshed tears, "your music made me feel less alone. My mum used to sing to me, but now it's hard to sing without her." George knelt beside her, seeing the weight of her heartache reflected in her gaze. "Lily, your mother's love will always be with you. It's in every moment you remember her," he said gently. "You have a gift, and I want you to share it. Write and let your heart sing through your words." Encouraged by his kindness, Lily opened her notebook filled with her drawings and poems. One poem, speaking of longing for her mother, captured George's attention. "This is beautiful," he said genuinely, tears pricking the corners of his eyes. "Let's create a song together, something to honor your mum and your journey." With wide eyes, Lily nodded. Her spirit suddenly brightened. The two spent the next few weeks collaborating, laughter and creativity flowing as they wrote the song, Whispers of Love. It became an anthem of resilience, reaching beyond personal grief toward a collective healing. As the final version emerged, George decided to include it on his upcoming album, tentatively titled Echoes of Love. Each track would celebrate the memories of those who had passed, the impact they had made on everyday lives, and the enduring nature of love. On the night of the album release, George stood backstage, the vibrant buzz of excitement pulsing through him. This release was not merely about the music, it was about a shared journey, bringing together the lives of lost loved ones and those still here, honoring their stories. As he stepped onto the stage, he faced a sea of familiar and new faces, eager and hopeful. "Thank you for being here tonight," George began, his voice steady yet filled with emotion. "This music is for all those who have loved and lost, and for those searching for comfort in each note." He strummed the opening chords of Whispers of Love, feeling the energy in the room shift. The haunting melody spoke to anyone who had ever yearned for a connection. As he sang, he noticed the audience leaning into one another, sharing in their collective hope and heartache. When the final note echoed into the distance, the audience erupted in applause, a storm of appreciation and connection resonating throughout the venue. In that overwhelming moment, George realized just how powerful the act of sharing stories through music could be. It wasn't just about him on stage, it was a celebration of life, love, and healing, an affirmation of the bonds shared among everyone present. Walking off stage that night, George felt a resurgence of hope and purpose. This journey had transformed his understanding of grief. It was less about bearing sorrow alone, and more about the connections forged through shared experiences. As he stepped into the night, heart full, George recognized a powerful truth. Love never truly leaves us. It resonates through memories and songs, creating new connections even in the depths of sorrow. He left the venue knowing that as long as he had a guitar in hand and stories to share, the enduring spirit of Mr. Jenkins and all those he had lost would continue to shine brightly. In every song played, he would carry their legacies forward, ensuring they lived on through each note, a reminder that even amid loss, love endures, guiding us toward tomorrow.